Good morning, students. Today we will study the chapter Deep Water. Its author is William Douglas. William Douglas was born in Maine. After graduating from a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Economics, he spent 2 years teaching high school in Yakima. He was one of the most popular and powerful American Supreme Court Chief Justices in the history, and had an enemy since the childhood. He tried to defeat this enemy in all possible ways. First, he tried to overcome this enemy all by himself and later with the help of a trainer. Though it took years to defeat the enemy, finally he was successful to kill this enemy. He was not arrested or sentenced for this murder, not because he himself was a Chief Justice, but because his murdered enemy was his fear of water. William Douglas had a desire to learn swimming since childhood. It happened when he was only 10 or 11 years old. He decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at the YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. But the Yakima River was treacherous. His mother continually warned him that he should not go to that pool. It was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was 9 feet deep at the other end, so the drop was gradual. What he decided? He got a pair of water wings and went to the pool. Actually, he hated to walk to the water pool in the naked condition. He did not want to show his skinny or very thin legs to others. But then he subdued, that is, he suppressed his pride and did it. From the beginning, however, he had an aversion to the water when he was in it. This started when he was 3 or 4 years old. What happened actually at that stage? Actually, it was a misadventure. He had gone to the beach of California with his father. Both of them, they were standing in the surf, and he was hanging to his father's legs when a great wave knocked him down and swept over him. He was buried in water. His breath was gone. He was feeling frightened. His father was laughing to see him. But what he developed? A great terror in his heart that water waves can overpower anyone. That incident of his early childhood had a great impression on his mind, but then he decided to remove it. His introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories and stirred childish fears in him. But in a little while he gathered confidence, and then he decided to paddle with his new water wings. At the age of 10 or 11, he decided to learn to swim with water wings at the YMCA pool, since it was safe at the shallow end. But then a misadventure took place. Actually, one day when he went to the pool, no one else was there. The place was quiet. The water was still, and even he could see the tiled bottom there. He had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy, probably 18 years old. He had thick hair on his chest, and he was a beautiful physical specimen with legs and arms that showed his rippling muscles. The boy picked him and tossed him into the deep end. William Douglas, when he was going down, he planned to make a big jump upwards, but came up slowly just like a cork. The stark terror seized him. He tried to shout, but he could not do anything. He was flailing at the surface of the water. He swallowed, but the dirty water of the pool. He tried to bring up his legs, but they were hanging as dead weight, so for the second time he was going down. Again, he decided to take a jump upwards, but it was waste of energy. Terror had held him deeper and deeper. According To him, it was sheer, stark terror, the terror which he could not understand, the terror which was beyond his control. And he tried to shriek underwater, but he felt as paralyzed, stiff, rigid with fear. Even the screams in his throat were frozen. He was drowning for the third time. During the third trial, when he tried to shout, he sucked only water. Light was going out to him, and there was no more, but only panic was there. So he ceased all his efforts and he became unconscious. He felt it that water waves were around him like tender arms of his mother, and he should sleep there. Well, this was a state of oblivion to him. He felt that the curtain of his life would fall. He crossed to that state, and when revived, he found that he was at the edge of the pool. Somebody was pressing him and he was vomiting the dirty water of the pool. Even at that stage, he was in grip of fear of water, and it deprived him of the joys of canoeing, boating, swimming, and fishing. Eventually, he decided to hire an instructor to learn swimming. The instructor taught him swimming piece by piece. He went to different lakes further to swim and found tiny vestiges of fear still gripping him. After training of almost 7 months, one day in April, the instructor said to him, "Now you can swim. Dive off and swim the length of the pool, crawl stroke." And Douglas, he was determined to challenge the fear. He decided that he will swim. He knew that the job of instructor was over, but still he was wondering whether alone in the pool would he be able to swim. He tried it. Tiny vestiges of the old terror would return, but then he felt that he could frown and say to the terror, "Trying to scare me? Well, here is to you. Look." And further he swam. Well, he decided to go to Wentworth in New Hampshire, and from the docks at Triggs Island he dived. He swam 2 miles across the lake to Stampak Island. Even he could feel the tiny vestiges of terror coming to him, the old sensations returning to him in miniature. But then he had developed courage and confidence to laugh at that, and said, "Well, Mr. Terror," personifying terror here, he said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" He felt that the terror was fleeing. Even then the residual doubts were there. And the first opportunity at hand, he hurried west, went up to Teton to Conrad Meadows, up the Conrad Creek trail to Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of Warm Lake. Swimming up and down the Warm Lake, he finally overcame his fear of water. He shouted with joy, and the Gilbert Peak returned the echo. He knew that he had conquered his fear of water. That experience had a deep meaning for him, as only those who have ever known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate it. We all know that in death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death. As Roosevelt once said, all we have to fear is fear itself. And Douglas, he knew that strong will can make the person able to defeat terror. Now here are a few questions to test your understanding. The first one is, why did Douglas go on training himself after the instruction was completed? So you can write the answer like this one. After the instructor had trained Douglas in the art of swimming, Douglas was still not sure of himself. He felt tiny vestiges of the fear now and then. So he went to Lake Wentworth and swam. Once when terror returned, he challenged it and did not let it overcome him. Finally, Douglas went to the warm lake. There he swam, and the fear didn't return to haunt him again. Well, the second question is, what untold fact did Douglas learn about death in the YMCA drowning experience? The answer to this question can be, Douglas experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that the fear of death can cause. The terror ripped him apart and he had no control over it. The third question for you, it is, what did President Roosevelt mean when he said, all we have to fear is fear itself? Well, the answer can be, after experiencing the sensation of death, Douglas realized that strong will, determination, courage and toil help to win over all the terrors and fears, because basically these fears are psychological and can be easily won over if we can control our mind.